Right. Well, I'll use this opportunity to speak because it was for the first. But the last time I was here 20 years ago in this city, it was an interesting time when they zero disguised that probably it's simpler just to on the magnet strips on CDs to bring electronic mail from Moscow to Kiev. It will be quite quicker. But I'm glad that nowadays this is just an entirely different market. There is a bunch of operators that you are developing very quickly. And I'm very glad that here are all together. And now I would like to switch over to plenary presentations to invite Ivan Petukhov on the general characteristics of the internet market in Ukraine. As far as I understand, as a matter of fact, some aspects which I mentioned, he'll speak just about in his presentation. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Thanks a lot. You have made a good pass to me. How the the email was brought from Kiev to Moscow, from Moscow to Kiev. In my presentation, I hope would not tire you by this history, but also touch upon a bit about this history, which already this year just marked the 22nd anniversary. If many of you remember, there are those people among this audience who have been part of this development history yet 22 years ago, when this transition was from FIDO to Internet or to RUCOM, as it was named in that time. Then we can just recall a bit these dates. Once, just yet another thing to underline that Ukraine, one of the first post-Soviet countries, which started to think about its domain.ua, and those people who were involved in them also attend this conference because the remaining part of the Soviet Union were using just for a longer period the domain name as .su. The first domain just nodes just these are approximately those companies. They were in the 1991, 1992. The 1992, 1994 were already more breaking through, and the more nodes initiatives appeared. And since the stormy development of the World Web Net, I have pressed something wrong. Is it something wrong with my remote, or is it a problem with the well? Okay. The web has started its a more stormy development since 1991. That's the number of the points that we had by late 1990s. There's over 60 nodes. If we will recall, they were built on modems, and the most powerful modems were transmitting. Well, that's 1,000 bits a second. It was rather cool at that time, as they considered. Also, I would like to mention another aspect. I have shown in these memorable dates and that have that administration. Sysadmin of Kiev. Since 1996, we have started the so-called sysadministrators meetings. But I do not see him among the audience, but it was a very interesting ideology of the first years of developing internet. He wrote a lot about also, and I already somehow preserved in my archives just volumes of his correspondence. And I would like this period just in a nice way. It was a romantic period because no one was paying attention, and the government didn't pay attention, and the internet was developing in itself, and the government considered that Well, let them do it. But aside that, they don't intervene into the government's affairs. Well, at the start of the start was initiated since 2000 year. In this scheme, you see what was the internet in the year 2000, and now what it is size now. The growth is of considerable character since from 2,000 subscribers to 22 million. Well, it is a matter of fact of this realistic period has started with a conference, internet and the state organized, just held in Pushchavoditsa. This abbreviation from three characters. SBU, that's State Security Service, which participated very actively. One of the executives of the State Security Service named as nerve cells of our society. They were the first who paid attention to us. And if we move further along the slides, you see that it was based that finally from the romantic movement on managing domains, we have an enterprise, a company just was set up to operate from 2001. That was the beginning of the new epoch for the development of internet, and this new epoch is still in progress till the present. Well, some other memorable dates, and we'll finish with the history. I would like also to wrap up that the most important thing, the development of the internet in our country was going on not to the efforts of the government or its support, but I would say another way, just against the wish of the public officials. And internet was born. Anna just read the phrase of Gulchuk, but the time will come when the internet will break up the state, just to demolish or to build a new, most probably since 2000, the year 2000 was out to enhance the information society. Each of us just contributed its own part, and a good meaning of this word supported this development. Yeah, also these are the state authorities which you see in this black slide. That's those who monitored internet. Most of these authorities have already expired. Well, they stayed for not more than 1 year or a year and a half. They tried to exercise control over the internet space and to think how to regulate the internet. Just at present, 3 regulatory bodies that caring about this situation. The next question in my presentation, that's the conditions of the internet field. As a matter of fact, we still cannot count ourselves. It happens because that the state statistics agency has not been very accurate in establishing their blanks. When you see these blanks, we are still continuing as computer services. There is no notion, just it's not broadband access, mobile access. Probably just mobile companies just collect this information. Among those companies who are involved in internet, they do not have such forms. Whether it is a bad thing, the time will show. And on the basis of those data that the State Statistical Agency collects, the National Commission is made this map, which is on its website. You see the data which do not differ by a realistic picture. Therefore, I just provide 2 slides. I think my colleagues will speak about these slides. Vladimir Bukovsky will inform about the surveys carried out by the MAID with the support of International Association. I just included a slide to see the real values and company in MAID. So if we take not the data on the internet used by GfK company data, but take on the number of the computers, Just attach these to a slide on purpose that they are correlating the number of the computers and the number of users, because without computers, without gadgets, without communicators, it's difficult to use internet. There is no device to how to switch on. And briefly, I will speak about the level of the penetration of the mobile communication. So this already the level is over the number of inhabitants, and they say that most people use two SIM cards, and the number of the mobile subscribers on the internet are over 14 million individuals. Probably this figure is already higher, because those who would like to get internet quickly and in any place, in any locations, this number grows. This is a positive trend. In the site, in the 3,500 registered operators and telecommunication providers is also not an accurate data, because most providers who work just in the country areas, in rural areas, they are higher in number, just in folds just bigger than. And some data that I cite from the report of the National Commission for Regulation of the Communication and IT Development, how they assume how they forecast the development of the IT market. The data are of approximate character. The more accurate data are not collected. And the structure of the revenues, we in this slide that most revenues are just from the mobile communications. The just landline phone communication, if it is nowadays telecom, that will be this dynamic would be of negative nature. While accessing the telecom, you need to buy a telephone number. Because of that, they demonstrate the increase in the standard online communications.
And also some more data to be shared that by Google, Q1 2014, 14% of the Ukrainian population were smartphone owners and users, out of which 50% got online every day, and 57% of the respondents annually used a search machine by their smartphone, and 52% would rather refuse television than their smartphone. And of course, yes, social networks, there's very high social activity going on in Ukraine, and we have surpassed Europe on that a long time. So 90% of your regular users go on social networks and visit their sites. Informatization area. According to the State Statistics Committee of Ukraine, the first 2 quarters of 2013, services volume on programming and other services provided on IT made up for over 5 million hryvnias in money, which is 18% over the last year. So we can see all the time a positive dynamics, which speaks about our economy developing, and there's some targets that we aim to. And of course, the volume, the export versus import volumes. That is because we got quite a bit of hardware apparatus brought in, so we have not yet commenced serious implementation of software products, which cannot make us sad, because in our country we still have development-related and evolution-related processes. So these processes are not towards providing some administrative, electronic, digital services, and this is what we're all anticipating and talking. And e-commerce market in Ukraine. E-commerce, together with a number of other areas like e-business, have become the hottest topic amongst the community. The growth of internet trade in developing countries, including Ukraine, is way higher compared to the developed countries. And eventually, as of the year 2012, internet trade accounted for about 1.5% of the overall volume of retail trade. And as we know that now there's a high number of internet online shops opening up, and many of us are pretty successful users of this advance. And if you compare it to the other countries, then in Russia, we might say the internet trade e-commerce penetration is about 2%, while in the US that's over 10%. According to the state statistics of Ukraine, selling goods via the internet accounts for amounts to 341 million hryvnias in money, and that's of course very rough data because it does not take into account the fact that not always all companies are accountable, and they're mostly selling cash and people buying cash, so that's for a bigger percentage. And now we can see where Ukraine is situated as related to the other countries. Internet shopping revenues in millions of dollars. This is actually where the mainstream revenues go, meaning what do they buy, what commodities. Domestic appliances, followed by books, CDs and DVDs, cosmetics, perfumery, and commodities and goods for children. That's about what the market breakdown is by purchase. And we can also see how it distributes by our large internet shops. Domain area as part of the IT area, IT industry in Ukraine, as I've already said about domains. In December 1992, when Ukraine, as an independent country, formed itself in the post-Soviet pace, the first thing that our enthusiasts got to do was .ua that they received. And since then, we've been counting and calculating how we possess our domain name and domain space. So over the more than 20 years, the industry is developing sustainably, and that's due to the sustainable job of the hostmaster company, and the domain name growth in percent is by 3%, and in domain UA there was in 2011 over 700,000 domain names, and the rest of the figures you can see in the tables on the screen, and you're also free to find it from other official statistics, which speaks about good positive dynamics going on now. If you remember 5 to 10 years ago, then in parallel with the domain within the UA zone, we also opened a COM on that zone, so most companies are still holding a few, more than one domain name, and that's probably some sort of leftover, some sort of vestige, and perhaps in the near future we're going to have more and more national domain names and domain zones registered. Well, this one's showing the increase, the growth in our IT business, and the number of entities that only came up this year, and whatever you might say about these figures show a good positive dynamics. And the global classification rating on access of networks and technological preparedness, and MSE published new figures last year which speaks about the penetration of IT technologies that's going up throughout the world. That is being driven, of course, by the lowering rates for broadband and telephony services, and I would say Ukraine's got the cheapest and highest quality internet in the world. In the case of Ukraine, we're still in 143rd position, but that, in my opinion, happens due to the fact that the data is not pretty accurate, and we're not. I just mean that the reports supplied to MSE and the national regulator are using the national statistics, which is far away from the data of private companies' research, and due to that statistic, we're only in 143rd position. Well, this is not true, and network preparedness index is lagging behind because of the above reasons that I've just mentioned. So my next slide, now I'm not going to show you the whole slide because it didn't fit into there, but this year we prepared a report on information society development, and that's a national report, that presentation that will be adopted by the parliament, and this is the data on penetration by oblast in Ukraine. But again, that's the data that the oblast state administrations picked up, and from this data you can see that in Ukraine there's quite a large digital gap amongst the 27 regions, and that's another chart showing that. And here is how it looks, and that's mostly with a big gap. Kiev is ahead of everyone else, and it's followed by other millionaire cities. And that indeed speaks to the fact that for the operators and providers, there's quite a big chunk of work that they're supposed to do in our regions where no large operator has set their foot, and that's where there's only mobile or some other cuts and bits of internet. Somebody just managed to plot it, and there's no optic fiber enough there. So if you look into this slide, then in Kiev you will see a penetration of over 108%. Where does it come from? The last trend is that most families order an individual connection per family net member, so everyone wants to have their own access. So therefore, in Kiev, the penetration has grown. Yeah, I'm wrapping up already. It's over 100% in Kiev. So, and the last part of this. Right, is the specificities and issues of internet market state regulation. Despite the cabinet ministers think that Ukrainian products of that area are a very promising area of the global economy, the government does not pay enough attention, does not take due measures to foster the development of this cause in Ukraine that, first of all, deals with state regulation and limitations related to of administrative pressure. The government has developed a program for economic development optimization. It does not take into account the IT interests, and it's not up to snuff. That does not is not according to the set course for the country, and that's again the same issues. I will not just reread again, and that's the draft bills, draft laws that we want to get adopted. And the latest update, they want to abolish the harmonization and reconciliation with the State Committee of Entrepreneurship. They probably don't want us to influence their decision making, and they want to create a special fund for us to fund them. But if they set up a foundation, and to take an example of Finland, then let us also choose their committee members. Okay, that's the issue. All right, and I've started some analysis of data, and out of this analysis you can see that out of 30 planned projects of the last year, only 11 came through, pushed through the state registration, which speaks about the fact that associations like Internet Association, Atlas, Telecom, Palada, and others dealt very successfully with the national regulator. And this year we expect that way too. So that's probably a way to go for them. So they probably want to make up a joke without reconciling things with anyone. And the last thing is projections for development. We got very good projects. We got very good perspectives, and one of the projects that that we're in for in this year is a video surveillance system throughout the country. And there's a project like that, and it was discussed by the national regulator, and also along with the others that have been discussed, which are just as interesting, that would allow you to make money for the IT market. And what are still the pending issues? We have not gotten resolution of mobile access and radio frequency issue that is still pending in this country. That really has a big effect on the development of radio technologies. And the latest thing. The latest slide is the last but one slide is that despite all the issues pending, Ukraine's got a big HR potential, especially amongst the youngsters and communities that are able to find the right answers to the problems, to the issues. And thank you very much. I'm open to your questions. Thank you. Thank you. Please don't go. Tango, I got my own question. I will start with them. I was really struck at the very end, the Big Brother project and video surveillance only in Russia. We have only achieved only one option for web control, but when it comes to a throughout system, it's an unprecedented action in the world throughout the country. And I was also struck by the 7% from IT, and I assume that all your tax exemptions will bring about the fact that in Russia it will be more profitable to do an IT business compared to Ukraine. And I got a question. You've studied a couple of macroeconomic figures that, in my opinion, are something to rely on, and that's the number of registered operators. That 3.5 thousand, that's only registered, and there's 6 to 7 more thousand, and that speaks in principle about the law, because we compare like that number is only pending in the United States, and that's by the population density. But the Americans then also that's a very, very little operator. That's a very little village operator, as we call it. That's practically one person. That speaks about the fact that speaks about the low consolidation and capital capacity of the market, because in Russia we approach that very consciously, and now we got less licensees and less operators, because from the Soviet Union we left with the notion that every business center, every building were to get a license from the communication authorities. So what's going on? What do you think is going on? The trend is not that good, because the principle is good. It's very hard to attract money, to raise money, and that's practically missing movement, which means the stagnation in their revenues. And are you really caught by that issue? There's a stagnation in incomes and revenues. What I would like to tell you that we got it cheapest due to those figures, due to those values, and number of companies. We got the cheapest rates, and they keep falling. And if we take the access quality and speed, Ukraine stands in the very intense position in the world, internet quality amongst the European countries, and that speaks about a very high quality of the internet, a very low price, and of course because we got a low price and very high activity, there's a stagnation in the market, because there's not enough inflow of capital. That speaks about the fact that the large operators that are not situated in Ukraine, like foreign investors, are very welcome here. That speaks of that fact, and the process that we saw in Poland. And they also got very many operators, but the national authority, national regulator, behaved in a humane way. The market was consolidated in a humane way, but because of the money, not by extra decisions made, but by extra taxes inflow. Consolidation is necessary. It's a necessary thing to raise money. I'm just not discussing the particular measures that was done in an economical way. And now, as far as I can see, you're in a stage when it's like we can expect something, but I haven't seen any conscious initiative on market consolidation. Initiatives might be only conscious by the fact that investors are coming and giving good money. Then from that there's a point of talking about something else. All right, are there any other questions from the audience, from the floor on this presentation? And what I would like you to do, actually understand that's the kind of rule that prevents you from really standing up and speaking and coming up with a question. But anyway, you're expected to rise and introduce yourselves. Microphone for translation.
Добрый день.
Hi. Is there any statistics on development of services apart from internet and telephony, the so-called flat services? Yes, we certainly got statistics on also on the sales of software products, on the number of IT experts, and by operators, by providers, because the presentation was mostly about the development of operator segment and user segment. Yes, we got statistics, and if you're interested in how much television or IPTV we have, it's still IPTV is still related to television. And somebody do not think that's a service, really service, and another company for IPTV. But I can show you some statistics, but it would take quite a bit of time. So basically, that sort of presentation was some sort of excerpt of a 1 hour and a half long presentation. So, and the profitability or revenues from your own services. If you take broadband revenues, that it's dropping and it's on the verge of a zero, and if there is something that you can pull off on those revenues, that's because they also add television services to that, and IP telephony, they also add to that. But IP telephony or social telephony does not yield a lot of money, and it's only because of that we're still retaining the incomes. But if you take the average corridor, that it wobbles about 50 to 70 hryvnia, so there's no such fact that it sharply drops, it sharply goes up, and sharply rises. There's no such thing. I would take the telephone, if I remember it right. It looks like per quarter, and that's the data of last year, there was a switching off, there was a disconnection of 500,000 customers, and you see the dynamics, and that was about fixed communication, and there's also high mobile communication dynamics, and there's many newcomers, and people got restructured. So if 5 years ago, when dealing with an issue, what do you mean a fixed versus mobile line, and the person says, yes, I got a mobile and I want a fixed line too. And now there's a very flat rejection from regular fixed lines. And if you're interested in some new services, we again don't have any clear indication, clear figures, clear values, except for the polling and surveying companies and state statistics, the Gazcomstat, and at the end of last year, there were IT society development indicators adopted, passed, but they're not part of the official statistics. Don't you think there's a problem in the markets? I just mean that our operators only offer flat services, so the whole budget of a user of the Ukrainian population that they pay for the service. They pay to the operators for the cloud service, and also the operators on the provide a channel. They only offer a channel, access channel, but while making money on by and while allowing other international counter agents to make money. And what it would tell you, yes, that's more than that. Development of national cloud projects after the large turbulence on the market, like seizure of equipment, and the web money issue also, that was demolished. Like a big operator taking electronic money was demolished, and there is a market redistribution. And the fact that the servers were seized does not give you a much way to go, and it looks like 60% went beyond Ukraine, and that's a pretty bad trend. Right. I would like to prevent you from a big discussion. So, are there any more quick questions? All right. To run is clear about everything, and I'll be available during the coffee breaks. I'm open to every question, and thank you.